Welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County Mayor, and today I have the opportunity to have a conversation with our new Williamson County Commission Chairman, Tommy Little. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. It's good to be here in the Williamson County studios, and good to talk to you.
So let's talk a little bit about Tommy Little. The Little name goes back a long ways. It's your brother, we'll call him your older brother, and your daddy were very, very involved in the county commission over the last 30 some odd years, probably going back with your dad, even 40. But let's talk a little bit about the Little name, and then we want to talk a little bit about Tommy Little, the individual. You live in the Nolensville community, but as your shirt indicates, for many years you've been involved in the Page community. Your children went to Page, and in fact, just before you went on, you were talking about at the ball game. You'll be working at the ball game tonight, still there. And of course, many of you just know your face, but the Little name's a very big name and has been for years.
You know, I guess in county politics, it actually starts with my grandfather, whose name is on the plaque on the front of this building when you came in, because he was a commissioner for lived on Concord Road, so it was the Brentwood northeast end of the county.
And they weren't called county commissioners.
No, they were squires, I believe.
Called squires.
He was in it for 24 years. My father was in it for 36 years. And then Russell was on, and then I came on 12 years ago. Russell and I, when we were on together, we were the first brothers to ever serve on the county commission at the same time. There had been a father-son team that had served on it. The Sloans, I believe it was.
That's right.
But we were the first brothers to serve at the same time.
Well, I know also many people would know the Little name here in the Franklin community. You all had a grocery store.
We did. We had the first store is where the courthouse sits now. It was the Big Star, as it was known as, and then we had the one on Columbia Avenue for many years. It was ended as an IGA, so before we closed it.
So you kind of grew up in small business. You grew up around the kitchen table with a conversation of Williamson County and groceries.
That's correct. Dad would often talk about the different things going on in the county and the things that were happening with the meeting. Of course, then they were quarterly court. Originally, they met, 4 times a year? And then just watching the changes over the years through the county and as everything has grown and shifted.
You have worn many hats in your tenure as a county commissioner. I don't know of a single committee you haven't served on.
Now, I've been on every committee, and I've been chairman of several of them, not all of them, but chairman of most of them. I guess the most enjoyable has been being on the budget committee with you several times.
Let's talk a little bit about Tommy Little, the individual, and how you migrated or morphed into this role now. But go back and talk about your early days. I know you've got some brothers, family members. You had an uncle that was extremely involved. I guess that was your uncle. Well, I'm drawing a blank at the intersection of Concord Road and
Vance Little.
Yeah, Vance Little.
Yes, yeah, he was, and he's a big historian.
He
was Dad's youngest brother. And matter of fact, my son is Vance Little II, named after him. My middle son.
So tell us a little bit about your life growing up around here in Williamson County, and then where you met your bride, the whole thing. Let's get her going.
Well, going back, and I met my wife in high school. Actually, I was singing in a musical with a group, a church group in Triune. And she was good friends with one of the members there, and we kind of met there and dated, met senior year in high school and dated for 4 years, got married, and 4 kids, and 40 years later.
So, was she from the Williamson County area? I don't know that I knew that.
She moved here when she was 6 years old. We live out on Spantown Road. Her dad bought a little farm out on Spantown Road, and 1962 or 63, and then has been out there. Then he gave us a little spot to build on, and we built out there in 81 and been out there ever since.
So your children, for the most part, went to the Page.
Yes. College Grove, then Page Middle, then Page High.
And do you still have children in school?
No, not, my youngest one graduated 3 years ago.
So you're almost an empty nester.
Yes, we have, except for my father-in-law, he's can't see, and so we take care of him. He lives with us.
How'd you get involved in those early days in the local politics? I remember going down to the Little's grocery store, I'm going to call it that, rather than IGA. I'm not sure people realize there was an IGA in Williamson County, and I don't think they're around anymore in this area.
There's not in this area, no. Of course, it started as a food town, and then we switched to the IGA because it's a little better brand name. But I mean, my early career, I guess I got started, community involvement was started with civic clubs. Because I was in the Franklin J.C.'s for many years, was past president and district officer, and then I was in the Lions Club for many years. And that's, really how I got started, giving back to the community. And then 2006, I had a group that was when Newt McCord retired. I had a group from my area that said they'd like to have someone from the south side of that district to run for commissioner, and would I do it? And so we talked about it with the family, and we decided to do it, and I've been doing it, I guess, ever since.
So this year, your peers, there's 24 county commissioners. There's 2 from each district. We have 12 districts in our county. There's a singular 1 school board member per district. That gives us our 12. They have to run on, there's 6 of them run, and then 6 more have to run 2 years later, but they serve 4-year terms. The county commission made up of 24 members. There's 2 per district. You served or have been involved with some awful good, just wonderful people. You mentioned one in Newt McCord. And there was one that you served side by side for almost 12 years, 11 years, I guess, that by the name of Lou Green, that just was one of the premier county commissioners.
He was a wonderful man. He's sorely missed. He was, even though I grew up with county business, with Dad, becoming commissioner is different. And Lou was a good mentor. Because he was just a good role model. He would always answer any questions that I had, and he was so well loved in his community, and so he's still missed.
So out of that process, a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, you brought forth someone that was likewise involved in the community, and Beth Lathers, and she is your running mate now.
She is. And again, she's a past mayor of Nolensville.
Was that 2 terms?
I think she was 2 terms at mayor. She was an alderman, then she became mayor, and then she went back to alderman. And then she retired from that because her kids were in high school, and she just graduated her last one from high school. And I kind of approached her, and her name was dropped to me by some people, and so I approached her, and she was interested, and so we asked her if she would fill the position, and then she was elected then to fill for the new term.
So Tommy Little has served on all the commission committees that we have, and I personally have the opportunity of picking the budget committee. Under the Budget Act we work on, that's kind of the rules we set. We have many committees in which commissioners can serve on, but the budget committee and the purchase and insurance committees are the ones that I put down based on what we feel is going to come forward. And you've chaired the budget committee. You've served, as you said, on almost every committee. What in the world, if you know all that and you've got a job, you don't make a lot of money as a county commissioner. Now remember, I was a county commissioner for 16 years. it's a lot of involvement, Tommy, and it takes away not only from your job, and we're very thankful that the employers allow our men and women to serve, because oftentimes, like today, you have to be away from your job, and we say thanks for letting them contribute back too. But it also takes away from your personal life, your family, your grandchildren, your children.
It does, but I really, enjoy it. I enjoy giving back to the community. And as the family has gotten older, and, when I was first involved, I still had kids in high school.
Yeah.
And so it was always fun trying to make all the ball games and all the different events and then county commission meetings. So you stayed busy, but now as they've moved out of the house, you don't have quite as much to do, and so I've been able to get more involved with the county.
So you're following a gentleman. I became mayor in 2002. I had been the chairman prior to that, but you're following a man that passed away. You were elevated in that spot this past year when Jack Walton passed away, who was another one of those public servants that really, really did give from the heart. And Jack fought a very courageous battle with some health conditions, but he passed away earlier this year. You've taken over in a vice chairman's role, and were elevated up to the commission seat. And then just recently, you have been elected to serve as the chairman. And that vote that night was unanimous. So 23 out of the 24 voted for you. The one that didn't vote for you was yourself, and it's voice vote. But I know deep down you really wanted it. You had contacted them. You wanted to serve. How do you see the commission running under the reign of Tommy Little as your role in helping to make that a smooth transition? While you're thinking about answering that, I mean, there's a lot of things that you're going to have to do. You become a referee. Now, you don't give up your vote representing your district, but many times in the commission meeting, you're refereeing. You're trying to figure which way to go. Unless you've served up there running the meeting, you've got a lot of helpers and the attorneys on one side and Diane on the other side helping you to keep all that paperwork straight. But quite frankly, it's a daunting task.
It is, and then, trying to keep up, because we have rules to follow that tells us who can speak when. If we have sometimes we have issues where a lot of people want to talk about it, and one commissioner will say something and another commissioner wants to answer him. Well, if he's already spoken, our rules won't allow it. So you have to keep up with who has spoken when, and call on them in the right order. And of course, Diane is a big help.
Sure.
Help with that. But yes, you have to. You've got to keep up with a lot of different things. And
well, as you go through, I mean, even though you have done it on a temporary role, which you might as well have been permanent, you'll begin to develop your style of management from the head microphone. You will soon learn, as you already do, that your opinions anymore are more about letting others speak, because under the rules of the parliamentary procedure, if you decide to talk to an issue without approval from the commission body, you have to step down away from the mic. And so oftentimes you don't get to view your opinions and your leadership that you have developed over the last 12 years. They're more or less indirect through committee processes.
Yes, and really with the commission, I mean, most of the work and most of the discussion, I guess, gets done in committee.
Absolutely.
And that's, some people, when you look at our last meeting, we had 42 items on the agenda, all passed unanimously, and almost all.
All but one.
Yeah, all but one. I said almost all passed unanimously, and then almost all of them with almost no discussion, because we hash it out, and most of the questions are answered in committee. So by the time it gets to the floor, generally we know where everybody stands and they know how they want to vote.
So we've got 7 or 8 new county commissioners, if you consider Matt Williams, who served well, he did serve a term, but he moved out of the district and had to resign his seat, and then he ran again in another district. So you've got 7 or 8 new county commissioners. You've got a couple with less than a year to a year and a half under their belt.
I was counting, and we have 11 new ones from what we had 4 years ago at the last election. So
which is almost half. And in an earlier meeting or conversation I had with Carol Robertson, that's not all bad to have new blood, and particularly you and I are getting some gray hair in our head, or maybe there's nothing else left. But it's also good to have new ideas and new philosophies, because that's kind of the way the county commission has been over the last 20 and 30 and 40 years, that new blood comes in and carries on the tradition, Tommy.
It is. I think every election we've had, I think there's been 4 to 6 new people at every time, as people retire and people come on. And then as you get new ideas, new way of looking at things, new visions, and you have to mesh all that together with because the established community wants to see Franklin and Williamson County stay like it was. And then you've got
whatever that definition means.
And then you've got the new ones coming in, and then they've got their own vision. So you have to mesh all that together.
Well, you have a unique blend too that I think that's different than Jack Walton, who had been there, and he was different from myself, in that you bring a little combination of suburban lifestyle, city. But you're very, very pro-education, and have always been that way as long as I have known you, that the backbone of your community is public education.
Yes, I got, I went to BGA, but as our kids were coming up, the city school, I'm not the city schools, we didn't go to any city schools, the county school system had grown and improved, that I never batted an eye about wanting my kids to go to Williamson County schools. And as they progressed through, and I became a volunteer first with the elementary school, then moved up to the middle school, and then to the high school, and I'm still involved with the high school, even though my last one graduated high school in 2011.
When you look at, and I am putting you on the spot because we didn't rehearse this. This show is about just having a fireside conversation. If you had to pick 3 things, and you probably had to pick 3 things when you were running your campaign, because you and Beth and someone else ran, and both of you came out victorious with the most votes. But I'm sure people ask you, like they asked me, if you had to pick 3 items, just 3 top priorities that you would like to see this county develop or continue or move towards, what would be those? And I'll give you a chance to kind of think that through, because most county commissioners, I've already said, there's 12 districts. There's 2 per district, 24 county commissioners. And the moment you're elected and sworn in, you become a county commissioner. Even though you may not represent, the furthest point from you would be Fairview. But you have to think about Fairview in your decision-making processes that we do. Everything from the landfill to schools, from parks and recreation to the law enforcement community. It's so massive that it often takes the newer commission a period of time, a year or better, to just understand all the committees that we have and what they're dealing with, because they've come out of, and you go back to 12 years ago when you started, I'm sure when you got in, your eyes just opened wide. This is much larger than I thought about being on Spantown Road.
It is, and You asked about three things, and of course, capital needs of the county has been one of the biggest issues that we have been facing. You and I have talked about it a lot. Of course, not just the capital needs of schools, and that's when I was going around campaigning. We have other needs in the county, especially in the juvenile services. You know, so I've kind of made that a priority. We have to take care of the juvenile. Of course, we have the committee that's looking at that right now, but we have, because we've had to build so many schools, we've kind of, I won't say neglected, but we've put on the back burner some of our other capital needs that I think in this next 4 years we're going to have to look at.
Absolutely.
And find ways to handle those. So,
You know, when you look at growth, you've lived here all your whole life. I moved here in 1980. The population was about 30,000. We're at 225,000 now. When you're having a community grow at 35 to 45% every 10 years, when we're at 2018 now, 2010 we had certified about 81,000 people. We're going to certify in another year and a half, approximately, somewhere north of 225,000 people. When you divide the difference between 225,000 and 181,000 by 10 years, that's phenomenal growth. That tells me, and Matt Largent over to Chamber tells us, that the #1 state moving in here is California. For a long time, it was Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, because of the Saturn that came to town, which is no longer around, but it's now a GM plant. And you start looking at the number of people that moving here that have no history of Williamson County, certainly not your history, nor mine. Mine's only 50 some odd years. How do we get that message out, Tommy, that the reason you moved here is for whatever reason you moved here, if it was your job or schools, we need you involved. We need this next generation to tell us, how do you want this community to look? Now, you and I do not have any controls within the cities. We have influence. And when 85% of our building permits are coming from within our 6 cities, that's a tremendous burden upon our county on a countywide basis.
and it's hard to make your county constituents understand. They want us to try to put a stop on things. And, you know, it's what we have no control over. Probably one of the #1 issue we're hearing about now is traffic. And of course, so much of our traffic is coming, used to, I guess, when I first came back from college, that traffic issue was going north to Davidson County to work. Now it's a two-way street.
Yes, it is.
There's as many coming into Williamson County to work as there are going elsewhere to work. And so we're having to deal with not just the growth in the school system, but we've got the growth on the roads, which puts strains on more than one budget, not just the school's budget, but the highway department budget. We're looking at law enforcement. You've got, you know, we've picked up 840 that we have to patrol. You know, so it really strains.
Well, just the road, I mean, you're wearing the shirt for Page. That's one of the busiest roads, Arno Road, from 840 to Highway 96, one of the busiest roads we've got in the entire county. But there's no businesses on that road. They're coming from 840 going to work in Cool Spring and vice versa, getting over to go to work in Murfreesboro.
Right, and you know, people are looking for alternative ways to go. And since 840 was built, that's become a corridor to get through. And you have to come through a school zone. And so we have to look at, you know, the traffic counts where we've got improvements planned for Arno Road. That's going to help alleviate some of the traffic, but
well, the growth is outpacing, though, the changes that we can do. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do them, But the improvements we're gonna do, Eddie Hood and the Highway Department are making on Arnold Road, by the time we get them done, the growth has already superseded the numbers that we've got. And we could have a whole conversation on the road, and maybe we need to have you back in a few months. But we just got about 3 more minutes left in this 30-minute show, and I know we could spend the whole conversation talking about roads and everything from Wilson Pike, the underpass, which Highway 96 going all the way to Murfreesboro, the Triune area. There's just so much going on, and all of that focuses around growth, and growth never really pays for itself. There are other ways we had to figure out how to fund that.
That is correct. And, speaking of roads, I remember what was one of the meetings that I was at when, and I can't remember which one it was, but the statement was made, it doesn't matter how many lanes you build, they'll fill them.
Yes.
So you can't build enough. So we have to look for other ways to solve our problems.
Well, it is gratifying to know that you have gone through the budget processes many, many times, and you understand where the different dollars come in. Just because you have a pot of money over here and we'll just go spend it over there, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you're also a bean counter, and that's, if there's a strong suit you have towards the administration, the executive branch of government, you're in the legislative side, I'm over on the administrative, the executive side of it. And then the third leg of that stool, even comes out of Washington, is the judicial branch. I mean, those 3 branches of government are at the feds, the state, and the county, and they don't change. But one of the strong suits you bring is your ability for the financial side and being able to weigh that. I am most happy that I will miss you as working on the budget committee, but I certainly am gratified that you're leading the county commission charge.
Well, and when I was wrestling, I guess, with the decision of whether to run for chairman or not, and one of the reasons that I almost didn't was because I enjoy being on the budget committee. And I still come to the budget meetings because you learn so much more
That's
there
right.
than anywhere else. But I've lost my train of thought there. So
That's all right. We got about 30 seconds left to go. Let me say this. How do people get a hold of you, and how would you like for folks that have got comments that watch this show? I'd like to get to know you, or let me hear your philosophy. How can they reach out to you?
Well, I've got the county email address, which is tommy.little at Williamson, tommy.l, excuse me, I'm getting my work email and my county email mixed up. It's Tommy L at Williamson-tn.org. They can always call the mayor's office there and leave a message. I've got a home phone. Answering machine is on it, so I try to answer all the calls. My phone number's on the website, county website, and my email address is on the county website. So.
Great. Tommy Little, our new Williamson County Commission Chairman, started in September of 2018. I'm Rogers Anderson. We've got to go. We'll catch you around the next time. Have a good day.